Let the fire sale begin at 222 Rodwood Drive.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Matt Dery with you. It's another edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. A Tuesday, November 1st and a Wednesday, November 2nd. Trade deadline day is come and gone, and the Lions have made a big move today. TJ Hockenson is gone. The Lions are sending their tight end, former Pro Bowl tight end, in the division. We will talk all about it and bring Luke Braun on. No relation to Lloyd Braun. We asked him. Luke Braun, the host of Locked On Vikings, is going to come on momentarily to discuss this trade as well right here on Locked On Lions. Thank you for joining us, making us your first listen. We are proudly brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Follow us on Twitter at Dery Speaks, D-E-R-Y Speaks, as long as we are on Twitter, at Locked On Lions, the Matt Dery Facebook fan page, and we are on YouTube, the Locked On Lions YouTube channel. TJ Hockenson out, the former first-round pick of the Detroit Lions, a former Bob Quinn pick back in 2019, number 8 overall, has been shipped to the Minnesota Vikings as the Lions, in exchange today, get a second-round pick in this year's draft, a third-round pick in the 2024 draft. The Lions also send the Vikings a 2023 fourth-round pick and a conditional 2024 fourth-round pick. So a little draft pick swapping there. Basically, the big key, of course, is that the Lions are going to get a second-round pick in this upcoming draft for TJ Hockenson. I have a lot of thoughts about it. Number one, if you know, listening to this program, I'm not the biggest Hock fan. I don't think Big Hock is that great. I think he's a very good football player. I've expected more out of him in the last couple of years, especially coming off the year in 2020 where he was a Pro Bowler. And you figured, man, his ceiling is just going to soar, and he's going to get better with each year. I mean, you go back to 2020, he had 67 catches, he had 6 touchdowns that year, and was a Pro Bowler. Then in 4 less games last year, he caught 61 balls, had 4 touchdowns, 583 yards receiving, and this year in 7 games, just 26 catches, 395 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He had a very big game against Seattle earlier in the year, and it was like, oh, they're unlocking TJ Hockenson, and here we go. But here on trade deadline day, it is obvious, folks, that the Lions are sending a message to their fan base today. And that message is, do I have something? Oh, here we go. I'm waving the white flag. And I'm not saying that the Lions feel inside 222 RWD, that they feel like they're some contender. But by making this trade today, the Lions are basically telling you that the season's over again. And for a team that said last week with their owner that they had blown it up before, what was the phrase that Sheila Hamp used? Tear down. And now it looks like a tear down again when you're trading one of your best players. My crack research staff checked in today and sent me this missive. Hockenson's the leading receiver for the Lions in terms of yards and second in receptions. Golden Tate led the Lions in receptions and was second in yards when he was traded. That's twice in 5 years. Now, the Lions didn't have Hockenson running a pass pattern on the biggest play of the game this past Sunday. He was blocking. He was pass blocking on 4th and 2, down 4 in the fourth quarter against the Dolphins. So it's obvious that maybe they don't feel like they can trust him to go out there and make the play of the game or help save the game because he was blocking. TJ Hockenson's blocking, I always thought, was not as good as when he came out of Iowa. There's also this narrative. First of all, let's keep it simple. I don't like this because there's pick swapping. And if you had told me, all right, TJ Hockenson for a 2 and a 4, okay, I get that. But the Lions are giving up picks too, in addition to acquiring draft picks. And are we going to sit here and go, oh, Brad Holmes in year 4, that 3rd round pick is going to be big? Your tight end room just got really, really weak. You're 1-6. And we're back to square one again. If you're going to trade TJ Hockenson today, why not just trade Taylor Decker too? And DeAndre Swift? They're all over the place, this organization. And this notion and narrative that you couldn't sign, oh, Hockenson was going to leave after next year. You're not going to give him Travis Kelce or David Njoku money. His numbers have gone down. Here's a little secret for some of you folks out there that might not understand how things work. And there are times I don't understand, and I make mistakes. But listen up. Hockenson was due to make $9.4 million next year. He doesn't just walk after that. That's not how this works. This isn't the NBA. There's a little thing called the franchise tag. You could have tagged TJ Hockenson if you didn't want to pay him what he thinks he's probably worth. He's been disappointing the last couple of years. I'll be very interested in hearing what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell say about this Hockenson situation and why, who, what, when, where, why, how, why they made this deal. Well, we didn't think we could pay him. Well, I'm very intrigued on what the statement is going to say and whether Brad or Dan speak on it tomorrow. Campbell will talk. It's his Wednesday media session, and he'll answer. Maybe they'll make Holmes available. One thing's for sure, I don't like 419-1, and neither do you. But Holmes and Campbell usually are pretty transparent and pretty honest. Heck, I've got something to say about Dan Campbell momentarily, too, that he said today on the show, on the 97.1 The Ticket morning show. TJ Hockenson's gone. I'm not crying about it, but it sends a bad message. And it also shows you've had 2 off seasons with this coach and GM to get this thing right, to start building. And you want to be building and going up. And today you went down. You did. This wasn't a fleecing by Minnesota by any stretch, but you got worse today. So that's my thoughts on it. And we'll see where this thing goes and what Brad and Dan have to say tomorrow about this situation. I do want to tell you about our friends at PrizePicks. If I can find the button to press. Here we go. PrizePicks, folks. So much fun to play daily fantasy with PrizePicks. And you can do it with so many different sports. It's not just an NFL thing. If you want to play NBA, MLB, NHL, it's great. All right. What I love about PrizePicks is you're going up against the projections and not against anybody else. So, for example, Paul George hit some big game-winning shot for the Clippers last night. I didn't see the amount of points he had, but if you want to bet Paul George goes under 22 points or over 25 points, you could do that at PrizePicks.com. It's a lot of fun. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they go more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. MLB, NHL, NBA, World Series tonight. You could do PrizePicks and pick some players. It's fun. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals as well. Download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, they'll give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100 from our friends at PrizePicks. All right, so TJ Hockenson is gone. That means Brock Wright and James Mitchell are your tight ends right now. They'll probably dust off Shane Zylstra as well. I want to say one other thing before we talk to Luke Braun, the host of Locked On Vikings, about this deal. Number one, two more things. Number one, trading within the division, TJ Hockenson is going to come back and destroy the Lions. You just know that. That's how it works. I love the fit in Minnesota. Irv Smith is now out 8 to 10 weeks with an injury, their number one tight end. They needed somebody. They went out and got Hockenson. And I think in that offense where Kirk Cousins is doing a lot of misdirection, play action stuff, I think he's going to be a great fit there. So TJ Hockenson is going to fit well in Minnesota. I truly believe that. It's good for him. He's going to be on a first-place team. That's something he's used to doing in the 4 years he spent here with the Honolulu Blue and Silver. Earlier today, Dan Campbell was on the Stoney and Jansen morning program, his usual Tuesday fare on a 97.1 The Ticket. And they asked Campbell about DeAndre Swift. And he said, look, we might have rushed him back this week. He might not just be all there. He might not just be ready. Question for Dan Campbell and the Lions. If you know DeAndre Swift is not ready, or he's just not all there yet, coming back from the shoulder, coming back from the ankle, on 4th and 2, down by 4, fourth quarter, you're driving, biggest play of the game. If you know, after watching him for 3.5 quarters, that he might not be ready to come back fully, why is he on the field? Why is DeAndre Swift on the field on 4th and 2 if he's not feeling well? Where's Jamal Williams? That, again, is coaching. That, again, is coaching malfeasance, malpractice, whatever you want to call it. And, again, I'll raise my hand. Dan Campbell, I love his transparency. I like the guy. But if you're openly admitting on the radio 2 days after the game that this guy's not all there from a health perspective and is not healthy, and we might have rushed him back, then on the biggest play of the game, why is he out there? Because if Goff would have swung him the football down the left side where he was being covered by a linebacker, instead of throwing it deep to Josh Reynolds, would Swift's health have been good enough for him to juke that would-be tackler and get the first down? Because if not, Jamal Williams or Craig Reynolds or somebody else needs to be out there. See how that doesn't make sense? But a lot of things with this organization don't make sense. I'm rooting for them. I want them to do well. I want them to win on Sunday. I want them to beat the Packers, beat them to a pulp, knock down Aaron Rodgers a few times. It'd be great. But these little mistakes and then admitting these mistakes, it doesn't make any sense to me. What's going on in Allen Park? Just feel for the fans, man. I really do. I feel for you guys. Hey. Where's BetOnline? Where's our friends at BetOnline? There they are. BetOnline, folks. Get there. Your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. And hockey's going on. And World Series tonight. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game by going to betonline.net. As always, they remain your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting, up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. Want to know the line on a game? What's the spread? Lions, Packers, 3.5, 4. Get it at betonline.net. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. It's everything, too. MLB, MMA, boxing, golf. They've got it all. BetOnline, where the game starts.
What's going on here? Impromptu crossover.
Yes.
I'm Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings, here with Matt Dery of Locked On Lions. Hello to Lions fans. Vikings fans, welcome in Matt Dery, because we made a little in-division trade. Second big one between our two teams since Kwesi Dofo-Mensah took over. You include that big old draft trade.
Luke, I've always wanted to ask you, any relation to Lloyd Braun?
No,
Do you know who that is?
no.
Oh, come on. From Seinfeld?
I'm not a Seinfeld guy. I can't do it.
Luke, very disappointing.
I'm
Your
sorry.
Vikings
Wrong
are running away
generation.
with this division. Let's talk about it.
Yep. What, three
I'm
and a
happy
half
for you,
game?
bud.
Well, thank you. 3.5 game lead. Like bottom 10 schedule for the rest of the year. Like ton
Amazing.
of weird teams on there. And even the teams with like good records are like the Giants and Jets, and we're not sure if they're for real. And now they make this move. Yeah, they are going for it. And I don't think they expected to be a team going for it. I think I expected this to be more of a transition year. You know, they'd have a bunch of growing pains and they'd lose games because they busted coverage. And they did bust a bunch of coverages. They just haven't lost games because of it. They just keep winning anyways. And now they've come out of the bye, I think, a little more polished. And I mean, they had a need. Irv Smith on IR. He'll be out probably for like 2 months. So they did have a tight end need. I did not expect it to be this guy. I kind of figured they would go for a tight end or a wide receiver, and then they would just like live in 4 wide. But I was looking at like Alberto in the Broncos. I was thinking like, what about like Mike Gesicki or something? Hockenson felt a little bit like pie in the sky, both because I couldn't imagine another Lions trade in season. I couldn't imagine the Lions giving him to a division rival, but I couldn't imagine the Lions giving him up at all. So what's the catch?
Well, let's talk about this. And I mentioned this before you came on my show, is that it's disappointing, I think, for the fan base here because they're just so sick and tired of this. You know, Golden Tate's our second best receiver and our leading receiver,
like
and our
farm
leading
team.
this, and he gets traded during the season. Now, here's TJ Hockenson, second leading receiver on the team, your best tight end target, and he gets traded. Now, I understand you're 1-6, and if you can get something for him, and this second round pick is obviously the key there because the rest of it is a bunch of pick swapping. But the second rounder this coming year is big. But I think that Detroit fans do overrate Hockenson a bit. 2 years ago, Luke, he was a Hall of Famer. He was a Pro Bowler, and he was very good. He had a great first game a few years back. His rookie year, his first game in Arizona, he went crazy. And you're like, oh, my gosh, top 10 pick. We took a tight end and we were talking about Eric Ebron. No, this guy's unbelievable. He's been fine. And he's had some big games. The Seattle game this year, he was unbelievably good. But there's other games that you watch and you go, oh, yeah, TJ Hockenson. Like, why doesn't he touch the ball more? It was interesting today, Kerryon Johnson, the former Lion, somebody tweeted to him, well, Ben Johnson hates him anyway, so they're just getting rid of him, Ben Johnson being the offensive coordinator. And Kerryon said, no, Ben Johnson loves him. But biggest play of the game this past Sunday, a 4th and 2, where the Lions needed to convert down 4, and TJ Hockenson stayed in to block. Like, why isn't he out in the flat, or why isn't he over the middle, like catching the ball? So it's interesting to say the least. He's going to make $9.5 million next year. Can be a free agent the year after, but you could also franchise him. This is not like, I love these people that say, and I'm filibustering here, Luke, but bear with me. I love these Lions fans say, well, he wasn't going to stay anyway. Well, why not? If he wanted 15
That's what
mil
I'm
a year,
saying.
right? I mean, if he wants 15 mil a year, you could tag him. So that's weird. But I think this is a great pickup for the Vikings, and I think he's going to do well there. I do.
Yeah, there's always that thing where it's like, why doesn't this guy touch the ball more? A lot of times there's a reason, and you just can't suss it out. But what I have always seen in him is that he's this unbelievably dynamic blocker that also can be a pass catching weapon, but like the versatility of it, that he's good at everything, not just fine at everything, not just a guy that can do everything, but that he's like a plus asset at everything. That's my idea of TJ Hockenson. Am I, and it's especially that he's a blocker. Am I on the right track there?
I'll be honest, coming out of college, they said he is a dynamic blocker, and I don't think he is. I think he's fine.
Okay.
I think he's been a little bit disappointing in that department. I think with a new coaching staff, a running game, and not that the Lions' run game is bad, but it's just never healthy with Swift. But now that Cook is back, Madison, an improved offensive line, O'Connell's scheme, I like what the Vikings are doing. And I think that it's going to be a good fit there. I do. I think he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Not the greatest blocker, but a guy that I think needed to kind of be unleashed a little bit. I don't understand why. You're right. The Seattle game earlier this year, they lost 48-45. He went nuts in that game. And then the next week, he gets 4 targets. It doesn't make any sense. But I think this fit, and with Irv Smith out, another in-division trade, which is going to be vintage Lions, because I'm sure he'll come back to haunt them at some point. I thought it was a good move for Minnesota.
It's the only a more cursed team where this comes back to bite the Lions instead of all this kind of stuff always comes back. I mean, look, if you want to talk history of regrettable trades, we got one that put any years to shame.
I get it. Oh, of course. Yeah. And now he's running for senator. So
Yeah. Don't buy him, Georgia. Trust me. Trust us.
Gosh.
Buyer's remorse. But no, the Hockenson's role here is really important because the Vikings rely a ton on tight ends blocking defensive ends. Both their protections and their run plays rely on leaving that matchup one-on-one and hoping that he'll get help schematically and with the angles and stuff. Like, it's not just like, hoping, but putting him in that situation, putting that pressure on him opens up a whole bunch of the other stuff. And the Vikings also want to live in their 11 personnel with one tight end. If that can be the same guy every time, where before it was more of a committee, it was everybody had their role. You had Ben Ellefson, who was like only a blocker. And then you had Irv Smith, who was like kind of a blocker, but mostly he was your downfield guy. And then you had Johnny Munt, who was a little bit balanced, but kind of just okay at all the things. If you have somebody who can do everything and just replace that committee with one guy that can get 85% of the snaps, then I think it just makes the Vikings that much harder to read. And I'm hoping that that's the idea. But I guess I'm still just kind of wrapping my head around it, getting to know this guy. And I guess what a gut check. Are you happy with what you got back? Are you happy with the pay?
Well, I don't think it's enough. Like I said, second round pick back is fine, but then a bunch of pick swapping is what it looks like to me after that. And you're giving up. I figured if you're going to trade TJ Hockenson, it would be Hockenson straight up for like a 2 and a 4 or 2 and a 5. And instead it's Hockenson for a 2, but then, a 3
2
here,
and a 3
but then you're giving up a 4 here. Right. And so
that could go down if the Vikings win a playoff game this year. Could become
go from
2 and a 3 for a 4 and a 5 is
right.
So, what would happen there? So who knows?
And look, it's just the timing of it too. I know the trade deadline is today. It's funny because after Hockenson was dealt, Lion fans on the Twitter machine were like, "All right, well, let's just ship off Swift then. Let's just ship off Decker then. Then what? Then you're going to do a teardown again?
Yeah,
that's what So the Lions also have James
Mitchell.
Me. Say it again.
That just baffles me.
Right.
This felt like it was going somewhere to me, and that's like on Locked On NFL with Ross Jackson. You can find me talking there on Tuesdays. The Lions come up a lot for me because they finally felt like my whole life they've gone nowhere, and they finally felt like they were going somewhere. And like they felt like there was, I don't know what it was toward, and it didn't feel like it was a Jared Goff team, but they were building something that could maybe turn into something in a couple of years. And they're like taking steps backwards, isn't it? Because you didn't want to pay a tight end. Is that it? Like what do those picks turn into now that they are higher picks? What does that turn into that's better than a like cornerstone, do it all Swiss Army knife on your offense? Hasn't he worn the C too?
That's the thing. It's like if Brad Holmes speaks, and he hasn't as at the time of this recording, or Dan Campbell or somebody comes forward and says, "Look, we really wanted to, we didn't think he was going to be somebody we could retain," or something like that, or we like James Mitchell, who's a 5th round pick tight end or 4th round pick tight end this year that finally caught a pass this past week, and they've got Brock Wright, so we've got a couple of decent tight ends there, but nobody as good as Hockenson. I don't know what they're going to say about it, but the bottom line is, like I said before, with the timing, the team is 1-6, and you want to be retaining in year 2 as you build upwards. You want to retain your good players. And now you're trading one away and didn't get a first round pick for him. Not that, I don't know. I mean, the second round pick this year is going to be low if the Vikings keep winning. So that's where I'm at with it, Luke. I think it's a good pickup for the Vikings. I do. I like that fit with Cousins. I really do.
I love this fit. I'm positively giddy about it.
Hey, look, good for Minnesota to go for it.
Yeah, it seems like we're kind of in lockstep. I feel like the Vikings could have paid more and I still would have liked it. That's like the litmus test for me. Like if they didn't get one of the fourth round picks back or something like that, I still would have felt pretty good about this. Which is interesting because Kwesi overpaid the first time we traded with the Lions. So the draft pick compensation, whatever charts they're working with is. Yeah. No, we found a way to get guys that, I mean, they're all injured, so haven't really seen that work out. But like on the like value charts and all that stuff, it felt like trading down, he didn't get enough back, and this time he didn't give enough back. So I don't know. It's a weird relationship these two teams have, and I can't imagine this is the last time they trade. So maybe we'll talk again. We'll certainly talk again when the Vikings travel to Detroit. What, December?
Yes, sir. We'll
all right.
We'll do it again. Always a pleasure. Luke Braun, Locked On Vikings. I love talking to you, buddy.
Yeah, great to talk to you, man. Talk to you again soon.